Hey, Husker fans! Welcome back to the Husker Big Red YouTube channel. I'm Chris Peterson, and joining me as always is Danny Gillette, and we're live here on YouTube and Facebook here for Coffee Bit with Husker Big Red, episode number 4. And so, thanks for everybody for joining us here on all of our social channels. Sorry, we're a few minutes late; had to fix some lighting issues here, so you could actually see us here as we're talking. So, it's Saturday morning. It's the day of the Big Red preview. We've got the first week of fall camp in the books, so we're gonna offer up some takeaways, look ahead to the Big Red preview, and talk about whatever else that you guys want to talk about. So, Danny, how are you on Saturday morning?
I don't know who would want to see me this early in the morning, but for all those who do, welcome, and I'm doing well. Busy time of year. A lot of camp highlights and camp news. So we got the Big Red preview tonight for those who are lucky enough to attend. I mean, have a great time, and yeah, we're approaching opening kickoff here soon enough.
Yeah, it's crazy to think fall camp, the first week, essentially in the books. Today will be the last day, and we'll get the Big Red preview, and I think that'll be interesting. I'm sure we'll see plenty of highlights and things from today. But yeah, it's pretty exciting. The Big Ten Network was in Lincoln yesterday. They kind of did their preview show on the Huskers, and they had, I thought, a lot of positive takeaways about this Nebraska football team, and they had a lot of positive things to say about the Huskers on both sides of the line. Jake Butt, who knows a thing or two about being a college all American tight end, had a lot of good things to say about Carter Nelson. So I think there's a lot of positive vibes from the first week of camp, but we have also felt that way before. So hopefully all of these positive vibes will turn into a lot of on-field production when the 2025 season finally starts.
I'm extremely optimistic about this season. I've been pretty much optimistic every single year, but I really do feel like this team can turn the corner. And Matt Rule is known for making his third year leaps as a head coach, and this team could be another one that continues that trend.
Yeah, definitely. They have a good chance, I think, of taking that step, like you said, with Matt Rule this year. And yeah, the defense. We've been talking about that, but we feel like the defense, should be improved this year. And John Butler got a chance to talk with the Big Ten Network guys yesterday. So yeah, I mean, I think that everything is set up for Matt Rule and the Huskers to make that third year leap. Now, how big is that leap going to be? I think that's the question. Are you going to go from 7 wins to 8 or to 9 to 10? So I think that's kind of the question on everybody's mind. How big is that leap? And, can you actually take it? Because, we've talked about that before, and they've had a lot of great starts. I mean, even in 2023, they started 5-3, and we all thought they were going to go to a bowl game. And last year started 5-1, before they lost 5 out of their last 6. So, they do have to find a way to finish strong because they've started strong, each of the last 2 years under Matt Rule. So now they have to finish strong if they're going to, take that third year leap, so to speak.
I agree, and I do think the coaching staff is also set up better to where they won't suffer that kind of back half snooze, if you will. But like you said, I mean, they started off strong. They finished kind of flat, but I don't think that's going to happen this year. I'm kind of hesitant to say that because you never know, but I feel confident in the coaching staff as well. And this is the first time under Matt Rule that I've truly felt confident in what the staff can do.
Yeah, I think they upgraded with special teams, and it was interesting that Dana Holgerson said on Saturday or Friday, excuse me, that Matt Rule wanted him to be the offensive coordinator for the entire 2024 season, but that he wasn't quite up to it. He didn't, feel mentally ready for it or whatever. I don't know, exactly what he said. So I thought that was kind of interesting that Matt Rule was kind of looking to make that move even before the 2024 season. So even after 2023, kind of realized like, hey, this isn't. Marcus Satterfield's not really the guy to, lead this room forward, like the quarterback room and the offense. So I'm glad that they've got that figured out. And I think they, have one of the best offensive coordinators in college football right now. Who knows how long he's going to be here, but hopefully at least for the rest of Dylan Raiola's Nebraska career. And I think that would be a great thing for the Huskers.
Well, if you remember, and it's so long ago now, but last January there were some rumblings that Matt Rule was looking at Dana Holgerson, and that Holgerson was in Lincoln for like a meeting like last January, and that never came to fruition. So I think this has been a long time in the making, and I'm happy that he's on the staff now, and um, I'm excited to see what he can do with arguably one of the most explosive wide receiver rooms that Nebraska has had in quite some time.
Yeah, and I guess one thing on along those lines, slightly concerning. I don't know how concerned we need to be about it. We'll see today. But Dane Key was not on the practice field yesterday. That was mentioned by Dave Revson and some of the other big BTN guys. Like they mentioned like Ja'Cory Barney and some of the other guys. So I don't know. Maybe it's just like a 1 day thing or a day-to-day thing. I'm sure that Matt Rule will get asked about it today. So hopefully Dane Key will just be out there today for the Big Red preview. That's kind of what I'm hoping for. But because injuries are always concerning, and I know that the wide receiver room, it feels like they have a ton of depth. But I mean, if you take Dane Key out of there, all of a sudden that depth looks a little more wishy-washy because then you've got a lot less proven production, in that room. So hopefully there's nothing serious going on with Dane Key, because I do think that will put a big damper on the receiver room. Not gonna lie.
If this extends beyond next week, then I'd start to get a little bit worried. Right now, I mean, it's the first week of camp. There's nicks and bruises and bumps and things like that. It's something to monitor, but I'm not too worried yet.
Yeah, we'll see, and just hopefully it's nothing. If it's just a day-to-day thing, no big deal. I'm sure Matt Rule will say that. I'm hoping it's not not something more, not like a hamstring. I really don't want I hate when players hurt, like, because then that can just be a nagging injury, and it can be it's a day-to-day thing that can turn into a week-to-week thing. So hopefully it's nothing like that. But it's nothing to be alarmed about now, but just something to have on the radar. It's another one. Good morning. Thanks for joining us, Princess Elisa. And James, with a comment here from YouTube. I'm more optimistic with this coaching staff for a good year. So kind of echoing, what you were saying there, Danny. And just, I mean, I think this is just a better staff. I'm not going to say, from a coordinator's perspective. I mean, the position coaches, I think there were definitely some upgrades made as well. Keel Shorts, I think, compared to Garrett McGuire, is a massive upgrade at wide receiver. I don't think Garrett McGuire had a clue on what he was doing. That was, looking back, I think that might have been Matt Rule's worst hire. And I know that, Marcus Satterfield, maybe his OC, could be in that mix too, as pretty underwhelming. But what in the world was he thinking, hiring Garrett McGuire to be the receivers coach? That was a disaster.
I think McGuire is going to be a good coach, but I don't think he was ready for the wide receivers coach gig quite yet. We'll have to see what he does at Texas Tech. But I'm very optimistic with this staff. Terry Braden is a guy that I'm going to be watching, because I think the development of the offensive line, or the defensive line, is going to be extremely important. And there's a lot of youth in that room. And I feel like this defensive line is set up for years to come, provided everybody plays to their potential. But I'm really excited for the defensive line, and I know a lot of people thought there would be a drop-off with Nash and Ty gone, but to me, I could see an instance where this room, even maybe this season could be even better.
Yeah, potentially, if Riley Van Poppel and Elijah Judy, both step up. I think those are two critical guys, especially when we're talking about the run defense. Dylan, I won't say Parrott. I have to look that up. But,
I think you're right. I think it's Perot.
Yeah. Anyways, he's up to 320 now, 6'5", 320, and he played quite a bit. Looking back at the Pinstripe Bowl, which was actually on the Big Ten Network last night after the training camp show. So if you are a true Husker fan, you probably took that into. But anyway, 320 pounds there. Gabe Brooks, we haven't heard a lot about. We'll see what happens with him. I haven't heard a ton about Jalen George either. I don't know if he's potentially banged up, but Williams Noweri, I think, has a ton of potential. I'd like to see Cam Leonard play, like he did those first few games as a freshman. Like that Colorado game, down there in Boulder, and he just, was basically unblockable. And then Keanu Davis, I think, is really one of the guys that whether it's inside, outside, I think he can move around and play a few different spots, but I really think he is a guy that, like Van Poppel and Keanu Davis are two of the, I would say, the holdovers that I think are really going to take a step forward this season. Like by the end of the year, we're just going to really view those guys as like stalwart, type of players.
I'm excited for Van Poppel, and like we talked about before, I know some people were kind of worried that he was redshirted last year, but I think this year is when he takes that step, and he showed promises as a freshman in 2023. I still remember. I don't know if you remember this, but the goal line stand against Illinois to stop their long drive right in its tracks, and that's when I knew. I'm like, man, he can get through the line quick. He can make an impact play, and so I'm really excited to see what he can do in a full season with an opportunity for a major role.
Yeah, I had a pressure in the Pinstripe Bowl last year as well when he came off the red shirt. So yeah, I think Van Poppel is going to have a big impact. He was a former 4-star recruit. He was actually part of that 2023 class that, Matt Rule was able to hold on to those guys. But I mean, he was essentially a Scott Frost commitment. So, that's just a kind of interesting fact about Riley Van Poppel. So he's stuck around with Nebraska through a lot, through a coaching change, through a red shirt, through all these different things. So, you talk about people who, want to run from the fight or whatever. Well, that's definitely not Riley Van Poppel. I think he'll be rewarded this year with a really good season and a lot of playing time. So yeah, we'll see that defensive line. It's going to be, they've got a lot of interesting pieces, and we'll see how it all kind of fits together. Malcolm Simpson, I was hoping that he could come in and maybe contribute this year. He's been banged up a little bit, so that makes me a little less optimistic about that. This fall camp is pretty important. Not that these other guys can't come on and kind of establish themselves, but it's just difficult once you kind of get that depth chart established into the season to move up. I mean, you can do it, especially once you get healthy and once the freshmen start to come along a little bit. We saw that maybe with like Quinn Clark and just some of the other guys. Donovan Jones last year, comes to mind. So there's definitely a chance, but I just was hoping, maybe he is a guy that could work his way into the rotation earlier in the season, with that size. So we'll see what the future holds for him this year. But overall, I think the defensive line, has answered some questions early on.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see what this unit can do and how John Butler can get defensive pressure from that unit in terms of rushing the passer and things like that. I think he can put together some schemes that will allow them to kind of, run free and get pressure on the quarterback, because that was something that Tony White struggled to do. As a defensive coordinator, he struggled to get consistent pressure and, draw up schemes that allowed for consistent pressure. So I'm curious to see what John Butler does to get the defensive line involved that way.
And one of my biggest takeaways, speaking of the tight end position, is just that the tight end position is going to be a much greater strength, I think, for this Nebraska team going into the season. I mean, Carter Nelson's, I guess the fact that he is 100%, the fact that he's 6'5", 240, and Jake Butt, who watched him practice yesterday, like I said, All-American tight end, was drafted. He had the bad injury, so he would have been drafted a lot higher. But his words on Carter Nelson were, quote, "He moves differently for a tight end." So, I mean, that's just like Jake Butt knows tight ends, and he's seen a lot of good tight ends. So I think, Carter Nelson's due for, sort of a breakout season as long as he can kind of stay healthy.
And Luke Lindenmeyer had a nice catch for the cameras, not for the cameras, but while the cameras were on him yesterday as well. So I'm thinking he can have a big role too.
Let's see. I think I actually have a video of that if we can get it to play here. Of your Luke Lindenmeyer catch. Okay, we started in the wrong spot here. See if we can get it back up. Oh, the glories of technology. Oh, no, this is that's Carter Nelson, actually. So
you saw him here we go.
There's Luke Lindenmeyer. There's the play you're talking about.
Pass interference on the defense, but he was still able to make the catch, play through contact. Doesn't necessarily have that breakaway speed, but he was able to track the ball, look it in, and hang on to it. And now here this is a Carter Nelson play, just over the middle. Moves pretty quick there. And so between Nelson and Lindenmeyer, I think the tight end room is a lot better than people think.
Yeah, and then Heinrich Harburg too. I mean, once Heinrich Harburg, he really looked good, I thought. I mean, he's just routes against air, but he looks, he looks, I don't know, he just looks smooth playing that position. So I want to see him blocking too. That's kind of what I'm excited about. And today with the Big Red preview, yeah, as you could see, like yesterday, looks like they're still, rocking the shorts and stuff. They'll probably be wearing pads. They'll probably be fully padded up today, and I want to see what the running backs do. Makai Nelson, I know, has been generating a lot of buzz behind Emmett Johnson, and like there was one guy I'm watching today. It would probably be him. Like if I was a fan, if I was there, in Nebraska, I'm obviously not. I live in Montana, but he's a guy that I would watch because I've heard a ton of positive buzz about him. There's always been talk about how he's maybe the best natural runner in this running back room, and it feels like he's more ready. He kind of reclassified early, so he was almost supposed to be what, a 2026 recruit,
Yep.
and he ended up being part of that 2025 class, and or excuse me, 2020. I got that mixed up. He was supposed to be 2025, ended up being part of 2024, and kind of redshirted last year. So now instead of being a true freshman this year, he's a redshirt freshman, and it feels like he has a chance to make an impact.
Yeah, and I'm very curious to see also what Isaiah Mosey looks like in the running back room. I mean, that was talked about as, a position switch that he welcomed, and Mosey is a good overall athlete with tremendous speed, and he played a little bit of running back in high school, so I'm curious how that translates as well.
Yeah, and another thing that I like about this running back room is the ability to catch the ball. And here's a couple more highlights. There's Emmett Johnson. I think that we're going to see the running backs play a bigger role in the receiving game this year, and that's one thing I really like about Isaiah Mosey essentially being in the backfield. Is I think that he's a guy who can also make an impact as a wide receiver, not as a wide receiver, a receiver out of the backfield. But those, we saw Emmett Johnson, those can create mismatches. And when you have a guy like Mosey who's run the entire route tree, I mean, I just feel like, man, that's going to be a weapon. And that would not surprise me if Isaiah Mosey catches, 10, 15 passes this year, as a running back, sort of like Emmett Johnson did down the stretch. I mean, between those two guys in the backfield, I think that they've got some nice weapons for Dylan Raiola, also in addition to the tight ends and receivers.
And you made a good point about Emmett Johnson catching passes down the stretch. Coincidentally, when Dana Holgorsen was named offensive coordinator, so I think the running back as a receiver is a part of what Holgorsen wants to do. And when you look at what Johnson was able to do in the passing game last season, especially in the Pinstripe Bowl when he caught that wheel route from Raiola, and what ended up being one of the bigger plays of the game. I would definitely buy stock in the fact that the running backs are going to be a big part of the passing game this year.
Yeah, so the games you're talking, so there's a 4-game stretch after Holgorsen took over for the USC game to call plays. So against USC, Johnson had 7 catches for 36 yards and a touchdown. Against Wisconsin, he had 6 catches for 85 yards. And then against Iowa, 6 catches for 25 yards. Against Boston College, 4 for 24. So in 4 games with Dana Holgorsen, Emmett Johnson had 23 receptions. So, I mean, that tells you the kind of impact that, and then he also rushing yards had 55 against USC. So he had against USC had 91 total yards. Then you look at against Wisconsin, he had over almost 200 total yards, 198 total yards. This is Emmett Johnson. Against Iowa, he had 96. And then against Boston College, he had 9. So every single game with Dana Holgorsen, he had over 90 yards, total yards, rushing and receiving. So I think that's the kind of season that we're going to see from Emmett Johnson consistently. You look at the number of carries, 10 carries against USC, 16 against Wisconsin, 18 against Iowa, 50. I think that's perfect. I don't want to see them giving Emmett Johnson the ball 25 times a game. I just don't think he will hold up with that. I think you've got other good backs, but if you can get him 15 to 20 carries and throw him 5, I mean, that's like the perfect recipe. So I just think, like, if Emmett Johnson can take that production over the last 4 games and, translate that over 13, 14 this year, like, this offense will be legitimate and he's going to have a big season.
Yeah, and it reminds me of our old Patriots offenses, right? They always seem to get the running backs involved in both the passing and the running game. Rex Burkhead, for example,
Yep.
former Husker and former Patriot. He was really good at that, and Danny Woodhead, a Nebraska native, was also really good at that for the Patriots. And but that type of style where run the ball, but also get the running back involved in the passing game. I mean, we've seen those type of offenses work, and that should be able to work here.
So Co, thanks for the comment from YouTube. Rushing, catching, blocking. I'm assuming you're talking about Emmett Johnson. He's bound to get hurt at some point. Who steps in and allows defenses to not just drop back in coverage?
Cortez Mills.
Well, I think he's
And
meaning like who in the running game
who in the running
potentially.
game?
Yeah. So who, if Emmett Johnson goes down, who can step up and not just allow teams to kind of play with a light box essentially.
Well, if Emmett Johnson goes down, then I don't know. Maybe Nelson. I mean, there is a lot of unproven depth, but I know Quentin Ives' stock has taken a little bit of a hit too, but I still believe that he can play at a high level.
Yeah, I think it's it's a question mark, Co, for sure. We just don't know who. I mean, I think we know it would be either Nelson or Ives, maybe Mosey.
Mosey, yeah.
Which it's not. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, that makes me a little bit nervous about having Isaiah Mosey out there because there is, like you said, blocking. It's not just hand the ball off and run, right? It's pass protection. There's a lot of assignments that go into it, and that's a big part of being running back. You can't just have a running back that can only play on rundowns, right? Like that's just too easy for opposing teams to scout. You have to be able to trust him in the pass protection too, with your most valuable asset, which is Dylan Raiola. So, with Mekhi Nelson, I've heard good things about his pass protection. But yeah, like he could be a good runner. Can he step in there and can he do the blitz pickups? Can he do all those things? Can Quentin Ives do all those things? What about Jamarian Parker? So yeah, it is a question mark, definitely. That's why I wanted them to get another running back in the transfer portal, just because it is so hard to keep those guys healthy. But they recruited Ives over Chamar Brown out of high school. They identified Nelson as a guy that they really like. So we just have to hope that those evaluations, by EJ Barthel and company were correct and that they can produce if called upon this season. But yeah, I would say that's probably one of the biggest question marks that still lingers with this team is running back depth and how that's going to function throughout the season.
I feel like at the end of the day, Ives will have some sort of a role. I feel like Nelson is going to be the player that we're really surprised by. I feel like he's going to have a big season and kind of step into that number 2 role behind Johnson and be like a 1-2 punch almost. I really do feel that Nelson has that type of playmaking ability. So, like you said, there's a lot of unknowns and we'll have to see, but I feel confident in Johnson and Nelson as a 1-2.
So question here from James. It's good to see you in the chat. Thanks for joining us from YouTube, James. I'm curious to see how players develop under Coach Corey Campbell. Well, I do think I think it's going to be interesting to see some of these guys, especially like the Williams Nowaries and some of these guys coming in this class develop. But I think the early results from Corey Campbell, like you can see it right now. I mean, look at Emmett Johnson, look at Carter Nelson. He looks completely transformed from
Corey Barney.
Ja'Cory Barney. Even Dylan Raiola has, beefed up and slimmed down. I mean, he looks much more, last year he kind of looked pudgy and kind of soft. And I mean, that's, I'm soft. I'm not, criticizing him, but this year he does not look like that. I mean, he doesn't have that, that belly is gone. That little belly that he had was gone. And he put a lot of work into his body and you can tell. And so other guys too, Riley Van Poppel, I mean, they've got him listed at 290, and it's like that's a lie. He's 315. So, I mean, you put him next to Ty Robinson and tell me he's not 315 pounds.
Dylan Perot, I think too. I know like he's huge.
I said Ty Robinson. I meant the Tyson Terry when they took that picture after Tyson Terry won the state championship.
I know which picture you're talking about.
And Riley Van Poppel made Tyson Terry look like a middle schooler, even though he's massive.
He did.
I was like, oh my gosh. So I am excited to see how all these guys develop, but I'm also very excited about the development that they've already undertaken. I think in a few years, we're going to look back and be like, this is one of the reasons why Nebraska was able to turn things around under Matt Rule is they had a truly elite strength and conditioning program, which we just didn't have before.
No. And the focus on player nutrition and player health is something we didn't have before either. So I think there's still more work to be done, but the early results, like you said, under Corey Campbell have been fantastic.
Yeah, I think Nebraska's and Matt Rule's done a great job, with the help of Troy Dan and some and to Trev Alberts too. I mean, we shouldn't ignore what all the things that he did, but they've laid the groundwork for this to be a great job, like Matt Rule said. Now they got to start winning, and they have to just they got all the ingredients, right? Like they've got all the ingredients that you need to to make the cake. They just got to do it now, and they just got to produce it, and they just got to make sure they don't don't overcook it too long, or don't overmix it or whatever. They just got to let it do its thing. So that's a weird analogy, I guess, but they've got everything that they need to win at this program. From
Well, I think
quarterback.
having an athletic director that's in lockstep with the head football coach is always a good step in the right direction too.
Okay, we haven't actually talked about this, Co. So
Well, we did a little bit yesterday, but
yeah, we did. I guess, yeah. If you want to check out our video yesterday, we did talk about this a little bit. Yeah, so an Isaiah Hunter, essentially, Holgerson said that like our starting receivers are Dane Key and Ja'Cory Barney, and that Isaiah Hunter's kind of in that next group, but that he's kind of getting some other young guys are kind of nipping at his heels, I guess, for lack of a better term. Quinn Clark, Keelan Smith got mentioned. I'm trying to think who else was it. I guess probably maybe Cortez Mills. I can't quite remember, but yeah. So I don't know what do you make of that? Are you worried about Isaiah Hunter at all? Just so we can kind of recap our conversation here for Co.
no, I mean, I think this just speaks to how good this wide receiver room is. I mean, we kind of already knew that there was going to be a logjam at the position, and honestly, I think the fact that some of the younger guys are kind of nipping at Hunter's heels is a good thing. Because in previous staffs, we've had players that are guaranteed the starting job that kind of take it easy, and then they win the starting job and kind of lackadaisical. But I think if Hunter has work to do, then I trust Holgerson and his evaluations of Hunter and this wide receiver room, and that doesn't mean that Hunter can't contribute this year. Like you said on Friday, you believe, and I do too, that Hunter can still have a major impact in the passing game. So I'm not too worried yet. I think it just speaks more so to the competition in the wide receiver room, and Holgerson has set a high standard for the wide receivers, and I fully expect that Hunter will be able to meet that and have success. And let's not forget, this is only the first week of fall camp, so there's still a long way to go.
And yeah, while you were making those points, I pulled up the exact quote from Dana Holgerson just so we can, know what we're talking about. It's from Brian Christopherson of Husker 24/7. Dana Holgerson said of his receivers, just got more guys. Dane's Dane, no Ja'Cory's good. Isaiah Hunter showed up well today, but he's got guys behind him that are pushing him. Quinn Clark, Keelan Smith, Jeremiah Jones, Cortez Mills among those younger guys pushing. So I don't know if when you go back and read it, that doesn't really even he said about Isaiah Hunter is that he showed up well. So to me, really all he did is put him a little bit below he and Barney, and I don't think that that's crazy. I mean, he's one of those guys, whether it was Isaiah Hunter or Ja'Cory Barney, had to be the number 3 receiver, right? I mean,
yeah,
and that's probably a name only. I mean, are the targets gonna by the end of the year, where are the targets gonna line up? Are Ja'Cory Barney and and Isaiah Hunter going to have the similar amount of targets? Probably. I would say Ja'Cory Barney has more. I honestly think it's going to be Dane Key, Ja'Cory Barney, and then probably an Isaiah Hunter, and then honestly, probably Carter Nelson. By the end of the season, Carter Nelson might be the 4th most targeted player in this offense. Based on the other tight ends. I just think once he gets comfortable and once Dylan gets comfortable, how many linebackers and safeties and such can cover Carter Nelson one-on-one? I don't know. I really don't know how many can do it. That dude's a freak. And I think once Nebraska kind of figures out how to use him, because that's the thing about Holgerson too. And with good offensive coordinators, it's when they get a matchup, when they get a player like that, they go back to it. It's not oh, hey, here's Carter Nelson on a 20-yard seam route touchdown, then we'll never see him again. You know what I mean? They'll go back to that same play. And with Emmett Johnson, it's Ja'Cory Barney against Wisconsin. If something's working, run it until the defense stops it. That's what good offensive coordinators do. And sometimes I think other coaches, they just kind of get too cute. It's you don't need to get cute. If you're getting 6 yards every time you run the ball. You know what I mean? That's just an example. But anyways, that's my long-winded answer about about the receiver depth chart.
And I really do hope we see Cortez Mills this year. I don't know how much we will, but I'm really like. There's been a lot of positive buzz on him coming out of camp, and I mean he's such a playmaker. I really hope we see him in some form or fashion this year.
The thing I like too is just the home run threats, and Dane Key I think is a home run threat. He's more of a complete full possession receiver, but he can still definitely get deep. And then you've got Ja'Cory Barney, who we know what he can do. We saw him do it last year. We saw him get deep for big plays last year. Isaiah Hunter routinely did that at Cal, and I know the Big Ten's probably a little better than the ACC or whatever, but I mean, like go put on his highlights against Florida State. I know they were terrible last year, but they still have a lot of blue chip players on their team. So
just ask James Williams.
Yeah, I mean, they if you look at they're one of the 18 teams in the blue chip ratio that has a chance to win the national title this year. That's not. So I mean,
yeah, and I have a chance to fly. So there you go.
I mean, I get what you're saying, but they are one of the teams that has more than 50% of their rosters blue chips. So
I know, but Mike Norvell isn't winning shit. Let's be honest here, which is why I don't know why Tony White and Knighton kind of put their eggs in the Florida State basket to begin with, but we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, they did have they were on a great path till a couple years ago when their quarterback got hurt. So I don't know.
DJU or basically when DJU came in, things
no, because he was well, that's true. But who was the quarterback 2 years ago? They were undefeated. He got hurt before the bowl game. I can't remember.
Jordan Travis.
Yeah, so I don't know. Like if Jordan Travis doesn't get hurt, maybe we're talking a different tune about Mike Norvell. But who knows? I don't know. I think that Tony White I don't know if that was if Matt Rule wanted him back either. So
I didn't want him back.
Yeah. So I mean, let's see.
Yeah, Jordan Travis.
Oh yes, got that. Thanks, Co. I saw your comment and I was like, what were we? And we were just talking about that. So that's where my brain is this morning. But anyway, I for thinking about what we're anyway.
Tony White, you look at the fact that Matt Rule didn't want him back.
Well, but the original point was that Isaiah Hunter, I was just saying against a talented Florida State team. That's what the original point was. That he was making plays against those guys. I mean, that's where some of his highlights. I saw a couple of catches in that game, and I was like, man, this guy. So you talk about him being able to get deep. You talk about more coffee. Yeah, I have not drinking enough coffee yet today. I maybe need to get like the pre coffee going for coffee with Husker Big Red.
Maybe it should be Red Bull with Husker Big Red for you.
Yeah, maybe. But did you think about all the guys that can get deep though? I mean, if we ever a Cortez Mills, Ja'Cory Barney, Isaiah Hunter, Dane Key, Carter Nelson, how are you going to cover that? Really,
you can't.
And then the pass protection and the offensive line, as long as those guys can hold up. But honestly, I know the tackle battle is kind of interesting. Are you that worried though? Like, do you feel pretty good no matter who starts a tackle?
Yeah, and that's the first time in a while that I've been able to say that. Because you think you either have Gatula, you have Pritchett, well, basically those two, and then I'm just naming the tackles in general. And then you have Teddy as a depth option, who was once a starter and a highly rated recruit. So I feel fine with tackles. Yeah.
And Tyler Knack, who's
playing
pretty well, and he's 6'6". He's got the he's got work to do. So I feel pretty good about the offensive line. So let's see. Shorts also said that Hunter had work to do, so this isn't new. Still think he's the Z. I mean, I still think he'll be the number 3 receiver. Probably Cortez Mills will probably be in that mix too. And it's just it's a new system, and Isaiah Hunter, he's just a redshirt sophomore, so he's not quite the same caliber of player as Dane Key. And the thing is, like we said before, Ja'Cory Barney already knows the system, so like it shouldn't really surprise anybody that Ja'Cory Barney is kind of hit the ground running this season. He set the freshman record in receptions last year, so I think I'm not really that concerned that Isaiah Hunter maybe isn't on the same level as Dane Key or Barney, because I just think that Dane Key is that talented, and I think Barney, with the talent and his knowledge of the system, they just have those built-in advantages. So but that doesn't mean he doesn't have work to do. Elijah Pritchett has work to do. Like this is the time to put that in. So once he fully kind of acclimates himself, I still think he'll make a fine impact this season. But at the same time, not every transfer portal addition is going to work out. I know they feel pretty good about all their transfer portal guys. I know John Butler said that he felt they hit on almost. He said they hit on one at every level, which I can definitely agree with. On defense, Williams
Yeah.
Nwaneri, Jalen George on the line, Watson Trent, and McCullough at linebacker, Andrew Marshall in the secondary. So I definitely, picking up what he's laying down about the defense.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's hard not to get excited about this defense, and I'm really excited for Andrew Marshall. I still think he's a guy that's being kind of slept on as part of the transfer portal class. I don't think a lot of people realize how good he really is and how dynamic he is. So I'm excited.
Yeah, him and Watson Trent, I think, are going to make bigger impacts than people realize. So yeah, this defense I feel really good about. I can't wait to watch them play. I think hopefully the pass rush will be better this year. And just, I think that's been, that's maybe the one thing that's really been missing, some dynamic pass rushers, so hopefully like Dason McCullough can be that. Hopefully, Keanu Davis or even Riley Van Poppel from the inside, Cameron Leonard, if those guys can really step up their game, I think that's one of the things, because if you can get pressure without having to like apply pressure in terms of like your linebackers and stuff, without having to bring more than 4, that really makes a big difference. So I'm hoping we can see more of that this season.
And I feel really good about John Butler too. I know some people this offseason were kind of upset that Nebraska didn't have an outside defensive coordinator search, but I feel really good about John Butler and what he's going to bring to this defense. He already has familiarity with a lot of the guys from his time, leading up to the Pinstripe Bowl. And, I really do feel confident that Matt Rule made the right decision with Butler.
Couple questions here. So CB, thanks for the question. Would love to, more like a comment, I guess. Would love to see Teddy win the right tackle job when healthy. I think he's probably the best we have. I can't disagree with that. I mean, when he's been healthy, when Teddy's right, he's played well. He was a top 100 recruit for a reason. So,
I mean, my feelings on Teddy when healthy. That's the big thing.
So here's an interesting question from Co. I'm blanking because there's been so many transfers. Name one the past 2 years that made a huge impact on the Huskers immediately. I'm blanking. The first name that comes to mind for me would be Syer Wright, because I think he had a pretty big impact. He was a late transfer, but he had a pretty big impact. I'm trying to think who else.
Brian Buccini.
Yeah, Buccini was pretty. Yeah, he was solid. But yeah, there hasn't been a ton. Yeah, Ben Scott was the starting center for 2 years. I'd say that he was a solid transfer for sure. Yeah, Ben Scott definitely was a day one starter. Let's see here. There's a good one.
So Ben Scott, Buccini, Syer Wright.
Syer Wright. Let's see. Yeah, Syer Wright was a weird one, just in the way that he kind of joined.
He's probably the best one out of that group, I'd say.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Well, I mean, Tommy Hill was a transfer. I mean, so not that he made an immediate impact, but
what do you say? Oh, past 2 years.
Yeah, so Tommy, I guess he didn't make an impact the year he transferred, but the year after, his second year in the program was when he really kind of stepped forward. So yeah, I mean, some of the guys, like, especially on offense, haven't really lived up. Jamal Banks, Isaiah Nair. I mean, they did make impacts. They caught a lot of passes, but I don't know if I would say like major impacts. Trey Palmer was pretty good a few years ago, but that, again, you're saying within the past couple of years. So yeah, I would say Syer Wright, Ben Scott, and yeah, I guess Buccini. I can't think of anybody else really.
I think that's it.
CB, they didn't go super heavy in the portal rules first 2 years either. No, they didn't, and some of the guys they did try to go after. Just, I mean, like they had like Arik Gilbert was going to be one of their additions, and he obviously that didn't pan out the way that we hoped it did. So I'm trying to think if there's any other players though, but yeah, I guess
I'm looking, and the answer is no.
So yeah,
honestly, one of the transfers from the 2023 group was Tyler Knack, so maybe this year.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, that was when they got Tyler Knack after they missed on that guy that went to Oklahoma. I can't even remember his name now.
Walter Rouse.
Offensive tackle. Yeah, Walter Rouse. So I don't even know if Walter
Who
Rouse
ended up
ended up
going
being
to the
good.
NFL draft.
Did he? Okay, so
Yeah.
that would have been a good one to get. Yeah, I honestly like. I truly believe I know that we probably differ on this, but I think the portal is going to be irrelevant within the next couple of years. I mean, really, I think it's just going to be high school recruiting is where it's at. That's where you have to produce, and that's where the best teams are at. That's where like college football is about, getting the most talent possible, and like just the transfer portal ain't it. The best players, the most talented players aren't going to the transfer portal, and that the talent available in the portal is just going to keep dropping off. So Nebraska, they have to start winning and they have to start recruiting, top 10 to 15 classes, or I think they are going to struggle to ever kind of, get to the point that we want them to get to.
I agree with that to a degree, but I mean, Ohio State built a team largely from the transfer portal. They just won a national championship. So,
I mean, what was Ohio State's blue chip percentage though? 90%. 90% of their roster was blue chips. I was like, I get what you're saying, but really, I mean, Jeremiah Smith. To me, like if you want to look at the biggest reason they won the national championship, it's Jeremiah Smith. And I get Caleb Downs too. But Caleb Downs, like that was a one-off because Nick Saban left the like if Nick Saban doesn't leave his job, Caleb Downs never enters the transfer portal. And like Will Howard was okay, but they could have won the national title with Kyle McCord. Like they blamed him for losing to Michigan and ran a really good quarterback out of town. So like, and I know they got the running back, but they've got like four other guys that are, right. So I don't really buy that narrative that Ohio State, they did most of it through high school recruiting. I mean, Emeka Mbuka, Jack Sawyer, that other dude on their, like almost all their defensive linemen, those were all high school recruits. So like you can add key pieces to it, but there has never been a program, and there will never be a program that will win a national championship based on transfer portal recruiting.
that's fair. I mean, I don't necessarily think it's going to drop, but I do think teams are going to be more selective with who they take.
And so back to your point, my point is, and this kind of all plays into that, are people playing up this group of transfers and their immediate impact outside of Key and Spindler? Are they kind of playing it up too much is kind of the point there. And maybe I think that definitely tends to happen. It's like the NFL with free agency, right? Like it's really easy to be like, oh, my team gave this guy $40 million. That means he's a good player. Well, it's the same thing with like, do good players really ever make the NFL free agent market? No, because if they're really good, if they're really assets to their team, they wouldn't be in the market. There's a reason that player is on the market.
The Patriots, and you want to pay players, and you're cheap, and you're a horrible general manager for the last 3 seasons, like Bill Belichick was.
I mean, that will happen, but like, but you get that point, though. Like you're not getting like you're not getting stars, and that's what I mean. I know that Ohio State got Caleb Downs, and they got super lucky with that because Nick Saban left his job. But it's like the guys that are leaving Georgia are the guys, like it's the guys that aren't playing, right? So like even if you're getting like a 4-star technically guy, like is he really, you know what I mean? So I don't know. I think trying to live too much in the transfer portal is a dangerous place to be. And I do think that what Co is saying there is some truth to that. We'll see though. I mean, Elijah Pritchett, we'll see. He's the guy that to me, because I think they probably paid him more than, I would say they probably paid him more than anybody, but Pritchett, like Williams Noweri is a guy that's interesting to me because he is a 5-star talent out of high school. And so that's one that like, you could get a 1st-round pick out of that guy if he actually can like live up to his ability and stuff. So there are examples of players that you can get with still really high upside.
And I think I'd add McCullough to the group. He says Key and Spindler, but I'd add McCullough. He's proven that he can play at a high level.
Yes, I don't think. I don't think that they're playing it up too much. Maybe we are a little bit, but yeah, with like Dason McCullough, Key and Spindler, I think those are pretty, and I would say Pritchett, I'd count in that group, Andrew Marshall, Watson Trent. But you're right. How many of those guys though? I guess let's frame it like this. Of the guys that have transferred into this program, how many are going to be all Big Ten this year? Any?
Andrew Marshall?
I don't know about that. There's a lot of good corners in the Big Ten.
Maybe a guy like Watson Trent?
I'd say I'd say Spindler has a good chance. I'd say Spindler has a chance. I don't think Watson, because I mean, think about like Shavers. Like I just don't. Yeah, I don't see that. Because yeah, Ohio State's got some good ones. Penn State, Michigan. Like I think Michigan's got two that are better than. I mean, because they got Jay Barnum, they got Ernest Hausman's their second linebacker. So he's probably. I mean, their second linebacker is probably better than our number one linebacker. Um, so yeah, I'd say Spindler, and maybe I'd say Spindler, maybe Dane Key. Although that's, I mean, when you're talking about the guys at Oregon and Jeremiah Smith at wide receiver, that's not an easy battle either. Um, so yeah, maybe Dason McCullough as like a pass rusher, and maybe Rocco Spindler on the offensive line, and potentially, like Elijah Pritchett. But I would say the offensive linemen are probably their best chances.
Yeah, I mean, and I'd be fine with that for sure. I mean, because offensive line was an area where we needed help last season, and Spindler and Pritchett were two major additions to that. But I do think that this transfer portal class really does have a chance to make an impact just based off of the experience and the depth, particularly guys like Marshall and McCullough.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with you. Um, but yeah, it is relative, and we'll see. I mean, when we're looking at this Nebraska team, I don't know if they got, if there's like preseason Big Ten honors. I don't know if a single player got selected. I don't think they did. So, like that's something that this program does have to get over. Like we have to start getting, like, look how many All Big Ten players Iowa gets. And it's, even though their record's not that much better than ours, they always have multiple guys, it seems, on both sides of the ball. So, like, Nebraska has got to start doing that again. And I mean, part of that will come with winning. The more games you win, the more postseason honors and stuff that you get. So that definitely is part of it. It kind of goes hand in hand. But Nebraska needs to get more of those All Big Ten caliber players if it's ever gonna, be in that conversation again.
And I think they can. I definitely think they can. And I could honestly see it starting this year when you look at how this roster is constructed. But I think they can get there.
And this year is really huge because when you look at winning and recruiting and how it all kind of correlates, because really Nebraska cannot continue to have classes like they've had in 2026. They just can't. Like they can survive it this one year, but if this program's going to be like, if they're going to compete, Matt Rule said, hey, we want to compete with Ohio State. You don't do that by having a recruiting class that's ranked outside the top 50. And I don't care what the circumstances are around that. Like that's not the way you compete with Ohio State and Oregon and Penn State and Michigan. Like they just have to get better at that. And it has to start in 2027. They've done a lot of solid groundwork. I think they still have a chance to flip some guys in 2026 and get more blue chips into this roster. But that's really where, long term, that's where this program needs to go. They need to start winning, and they need to start recruiting, top 15 classes again, because until they get that blue chip ratio up, close to that 50% range, that they're not going to have that much more success than they're having right now.
Well, I think this class, I think the 2026 class was smaller by design. I don't think that, I definitely get that you want to have a top 25 class, but I don't think, I'm not going to say much effort, but, much was put into the 2026 class because I don't think they viewed it as, a class where they needed to get as many guys. I do think that they're laying the groundwork for 2027, and that will be the tell-all class, but I'm not, as far as the 2026 class is concerned, it was going to be a smaller class anyway.
Right. And I'm not so much worried about the size of the class. It's more, because if you had 7 or 8 blue chips in there, the class they'd be ranked a lot different. It would look a lot different. So I think, the number, it's not so much the quantity as more the quality. And this class has, I think, 3 blue chip players. They just need, that number needs to get higher. And there's a chance for that with like Cam Wilson, to Darius Hughes, Jordan Campbell, some of those guys. If you have 50, if you have 15 commitments, I think 7 or 8 of those guys need to be blue chip prospects. I think that's the barometer that Nebraska needs to hit. Yeah. And if they're closer in that range, then I would feel better about it. But yeah, that's like, it's really interesting. And I know it's really broken down in numbers, but the blue chip ratio that's put out by Bud Elliott, it is pretty eye opening when you look at the metrics that are used and the fact that like basically according to this system, no team in the Big 12 has any hope of winning the national championship. Like the Big 12 is basically an irrelevant conference in college football in terms of there's not a single national title contender in that entire conference, and there's not gonna be, like, in the near future. There's not a single program there that has the capabilities of winning. Like maybe Texas Tech will have the chance. It's always possible that a team with, less than 50% of its roster made up of blue chips can win a national championship. Like maybe if you have an incredible quarterback, you know what I mean? But like, it's until that happens, no one's ever done it before in this playoff era. Like Florida State was at 52% with Jameis Winston. Michigan was 54%. Clemson was 53% in 2016. And they all had, first round quarterbacks. So if you are going to be, if your blue chip ratio is 50-60%, you need to have like a Joe Burrow at quarterback. You know what I mean? Or you need to be up in the 80s or 90s, which is where Alabama and these programs have been. And Nebraska right now is probably like in the 30s. So like that's like if we want to get to where Ohio State is, they're at 90%. Right now we're about 30. So like that's the gap that needs to be closed. And classes like 2026, I don't think are, going to, they're just not going to get, they're just not good enough. So they need to win more, and they need to start adding, more of those top 200 type of players.
I agree with that to some degree. See, if this happens again in 2027, then I'll be worried. But as far as the 2026 class is concerned, I'm not putting too much stock into it.
Yeah, no, I'm not, and I'm not. I think you can overcome like one down class.
Yeah.
Like you're not going to not every class is going to be great, right? Like you're going to have some down ones. But I'm just saying I don't think they can. Yeah, like you said, if they recruit like this again in 2027, I think that's going to be worrisome. But as CB points out, I do think this is partially related to the fact that maybe it's not all Matt Rule's fault, but I mean they've won 12 games the last 2 years, so that's not that easy to recruit against when you've got some teams that have won 12 games in 1 year. I mean Ohio State won more games last year than Nebraska's won the last 2, so that is a difficult point when you're trying to recruit against those programs, when you're trying to recruit against Oregon and Michigan and Penn State, Notre Dame, and all that winning does matter to a point.
It does, but also Ryan Day was handed the keys to a pretty castle, and Matt Rule had to literally build this program from the ground up.
Well, yeah, I mean Ohio State recruits itself.
Yeah,
I could be the head coach at Ohio State and recruit top 10 classes. Like that's just what that's why that program is always going to be good. That's why historically Ohio State has been better than Michigan, because they have the recruit, like they just have for better recruiting. They always have, they always will. Ohio State will always be the best recruiting team in the Big Ten, no matter what happens. Like Oregon maybe will be in the mix someday, maybe Michigan and Penn State. Ohio State will always recruit better than every other program in the Big Ten. Nothing will ever change that.
I mean, Brian Hartline alone can recruit whoever he wants.
I mean, yeah, it's just that program, and the state of Ohio too. I mean, it's a more football rich state, and it's just, that's what it is. Now you can still overcome that, but that's just, then can Nebraska get close into that range? Sure. I mean, I definitely think it's possible. Some other teams, Oregon and Michigan, have started to, but you have to start winning, and you have to start getting guys in the NFL, and because that's the thing is like, I think that I don't think that Ryan Day is like that much better of a coach than Matt Rule. I really don't. Like on a day-to-day basis.
No.
Like if you switch those two guys, Matt Rule could have won the national championship last year. No doubt in my mind. Like that's just you're right. Ryan Day, he was born on third base, as Jim Harbaugh would like to say. But at least he did walk it home. He got it home. I'll give him credit for that. But he was born on third base, and Matt Rule was like at Nebraska basically had to hit a bunt and try to turn it into a home run.
Well, I remember when we were doing the show.
You know what I mean? Like, they're like, you can't even swing. You can bunt, and you have to try to get yourself home. That's where Matt Rule started at, as opposed to Ryan Day.
I remember when Scott Frost was fired, and we did the initial reaction show, and we were like, whoever's going to come in is going to have a mess to clean up, because this roster is bare. And I think when you look at the roster from 2022 in comparison to now, it's a lot better, and he's done a lot of building and a lot of groundwork. And now I think it's like they asked him about there was an interview that came out Friday, or there was a clip circulating on the internet where he was asked at Big Ten Media Days if this team can make the third-year jump that Matt Rule teams have historically been able to make, and he said yes. He believes that this roster can win, 10, I think he said 10, 11 games, and that the guys in the room believe that they can win 10 to 11 games. So this year will be huge.
It will be huge. And you know what? I don't want to talk about it. I want to watch it. So
Yeah,
anyway, we're coming
27
up
days.
on the hour, so I got to go hang out with my kids. But we'll get ready for the Big Red preview later today. We'll have some reactions on Monday. So if you guys haven't already, please make sure that you hit the subscribe button, turn on the notifications, hit the like button, get into the comment section. Thanks for hanging out with us today, everybody that did. Thanks everybody who happens to watch on the replay. And as always, go Big Red.
Go Big Red.